So there are some careers out there paying $100,000, $150,000, even $300,000 a year or more, but some of them require insane years of schooling, insane hours, or just completely selling your soul. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to rank the most popular, highest paying careers from S tier to D tier based on income ceiling, work-life balance, barrier to entry, and long-term growth. So whether you're fresh out of college or you're currently in a career and you're looking to pivot into something that has a long-term, high-paying runway, we're going to sort through all of the most popular career paths based on those criteria. So here's what we've got on the list. We've got corporate law as a big law associate. We've got investment banking, public accounting at the big four in audit or tax. We've got nursing, RN or BSN. We've got pharmaceutical sales, B2B SaaS sales, software engineering, getting into real estate, management consulting, enterprise tech sales, dentistry, financial planning or wealth management, physical therapy, and medical device sales. So we've got a lot to dive in here, guys. Let's go ahead and hit this list. Okay, boom. Okay, guys, so first on this list, we have corporate law or big law associate, right? So let's talk about the income potential first. Really high on the income scale. You're going to be starting around over $200,000 a year with bonuses pushing up to $300K. As a matter of fact, you could ascend into a partnership with other associates. This might take 8 to 12 years, but you could actually be making over $1 million at this point. Now, the realistic ceiling for most people is about 150 to 250K if you do what's called in-house counsel. So this is like if you burn out of doing big law, you can go work for a corporation to be the in-house legal team. So the speed at which you hit your first 100,000 is actually pretty immediate, but you won't earn a dime until 7 years of schooling are done. Work-life balance is pretty non-existent, anywhere from 60 to 80 hours a week. Billing nights, you've got weekends, you've got holidays. As a matter of fact, corporate law and big law has among the highest burnout rates of any profession. Now, if we're talking about long-term growth, again, you can ascend into being a partner. It's extremely lucrative, but it's also a bottleneck. Most people leave in about 3 to 5 years. Now, you do have a strong exit to in-house counsel in just a regular corporate company as a legal advisor, but you've also got the golden handcuffs. Most people that make $300K a year plus, you get used to that salary and you feel kind of trapped because you don't really want to take a big pay cut. Now, let's talk barrier to entry. You need 4-year undergrad plus 3-year JD plus the bar exam. We're talking about 7 years minimum if you're passing with flying colors. Average law school debt's anywhere from $130,000 to $160,000 with private schools. So you need a strong LSAT, and ideally you need to attend a top 14 law school for big law access. So it's virtually impossible to break in as a career pivoter without going back to school full-time completely. So in terms of beginner and pivot friendliness, not friendly at all. It requires full commitment to 3 years of law school, regardless of your background. College grads need 3 more schooling before earning anything. Career pivoters face the same 3-year reset, and there's no shortcut or side door at all. The credential is the gatekeeper. So pros, elite starting salary, very rigorous intellectually, lots of prestige, strong exit opportunities. Cons, you're in crippling debt, 7 years, you have to go 7 years before you earn a dime, very brutal hours, high burnout, partnership bottleneck, and tedious day-to-day work, document reviews, contracts. Income potential is through the absolute roof, but if I'm going to assess this from a work-life balance and access standpoint, I'm going to go ahead and put this down in C tier. All right, next we've got investment banking. So this is like if you're an analyst or an associate. Income potential is great. If you're right out of college and you made it, you're already looking at about 200 grand a year. And if you enter as an associate post MBA, you're looking at 250K plus. VPs and directors make $500,000 up to $1 million, and managing directors can make 7 figures or multi 7 figures. So the time that it takes to make your first 100,000, pretty much day one, but it's only accessible from target schools with the right pedigree. Work-life balance is probably the worst on this list. 80 to 100-hour work weeks, it's the norm. You're on call 24/7. Your relationships, your health, your hobbies, they all suffer. Protected weekends exist on paper, but not really in practice, right? Long-term growth, you have pretty elite exit opportunities here as well. So private equity, hedge funds, venture capital, corporate development opportunities. Skills and network here are pretty transferable across your entire financial career, but most people exit within 2 to 4 years just due to burnout. Let's talk barrier to entry. So here's the thing. A bachelor's from a target or semi-target university like Ivy League or top 20 is basically required. Internships during college are nearly mandatory for full-time offers. An associate level entry usually requires a top 10 MBA. Like we're talking $200,000 plus in schooling costs. And there's an extremely competitive recruiting process on this as well. So that brings me into the beginner and career pivot friendliness, very unfriendly. If you didn't attend a target school, the door is essentially closed. College graduates from non-target schools have an extremely hard time. Career pivoters essentially need a top MBA to reset, which costs $200,000 or more and another 2 years. And this is one of the most pedigree dependent careers that exists. The pros are extremely high starting comp, unmatched finance exit opportunities, elite network, good skill development, and strong resume brand for the rest of your life. The cons, unsustainable lifestyle, requires elite pedigree, extremely competitive, golden handcuffs, and very limited creativity. You're just executing constantly. You're not really building anything. So again, approaching this list from an income potential and career potential standpoint, but also a work-life balance and beginner entryway standpoint, I'm also going to put this in C tier. As a matter of fact, I'm going to drop this down to D. Okay, so now let's talk public accounting. So this is like working for the big four doing audit or tax. Income potential starting out is about 60 to 75K. This depends on the market, but once you pivot into a senior position, you're looking at 75 to 95K. Managers make about 100 to 130. Senior managers make 130 plus. Now, public accounting big four partners can make up to $300,000 or more, up to seven figures, but this often takes 10 plus years. There's a very low promotional rate for this. Now, the realistic ceiling for the average person is going to be about 130 to 160K. This is without making partner. Now, so the time that it takes to hit your first 100,000 is usually about 4 to 5 years to hit that manager level where $100,000 becomes realistic. Work-life balance, very seasonal. During the busy season, you're talking 55 to 70-hour weeks. So that's January to April for tax, year-end audits. And outside of the busy season, you're looking at about 40 to 50 hours a week. It's a little more reasonable. Now, the truth is the cyclical grind typically wears people down. Like many people leave within 3 to 5 years. In terms of long-term growth, Big Four in your resume opens doors to much more corporate finance opportunities like FP&A, controller, CFO tracks. CPA credential is respected and it's portable, so you can basically navigate this into so many other career opportunities. But staying in long-term really means grinding towards a partner promotion, which just most people don't get. Barrier to entry, bachelor's in accounting, 150 credit hours, usually a 5th year or master's. You must pass all 4 sections of the CPA exam. So it's structured and it's accessible, but the extra year and exam are the real hurdles here. So in terms of beginner or pivot friendliness, pretty moderate, friendly for college grads with accounting degrees. The recruiting is pretty structured. Career pivoters need to go back for accounting coursework if you don't have it already. So that's, again, about 150 hours in a CPA exam. So it's not really a quick pivot at all. Expect about 1 to 2 years of re-education before you can even start. So the pros are structured path. A CPA is a portable certification that you can take in other avenues. Good job security, excellent exit opportunities to corporate finance, good training. The cons, low starting pay for the hours, busy seasons relentless, very repetitive work, and then the partner track is 10 years plus with low odds of even making it there, where most people just use it as a stepping stone into corporate finance. Again, given the income and lower barrier to entry for not so great a work-life balance, for not so great income, I'm going to put this in C tier. So next, let's talk nursing. So registered nurse or BSN. Income potential. Average nurse makes about 80 to 95K. Now, this is higher in higher income states like California or New York City. Now, if you go into a specialization like a CRNA or a nurse practitioner, you're looking at anywhere from 115,000 on the nurse practitioner side and up to $200,000 or more for CRNA, so certified registered nurse anesthetist. The travel nursing has gotten normalized. It's no longer the crazy COVID pandemic surge, so you're still looking at about 80 to a little bit over 100,000 for that. So the standard bedside ceiling for nursing is about 90 to 100K in most markets. So the time that it takes to hit that first 100K, usually about 5 to 8 years for most markets. It's faster in higher cost states like California or New York City, but it's all relative. But really accelerates if you go into additional specializations like I talked about, like nurse practitioner or CRNA, but those require additional time and schooling, of course. Work-life balance isn't too bad. You could get away with 3 12-hour shifts a week, but those shifts are pretty physically and emotionally brutal. You have night shifts, you have weekends, you're on call, holidays are standard. Burnout is pretty rampant. As a matter of fact, somebody who consults with a lot of people from healthcare, I can't tell you how many nurses are just done. They're also chronically understaffed, especially post-pandemic, which puts the workload on you. In terms of long-term growth, there is a lot of potential, but you do need to go back to school again for your NP or CRNA or any sort of leadership. You do have a ton of lateral moves with your career, like case management, clinical education. You can go in pharmaceutical or medical device sales. So without any further degrees, the bedside RN role, it just pretty much plateaus here. Now let's talk barrier to entry. You really just need a BSN, so it's a 4-year degree. It's kind of the standard now. The associate nursing degree, it's way more limited. Less hospitals and health systems are allowing you to break in with just that. You must pass the nursing licensing exam, but no elite schooling is required. It's accessible and it's pretty structured. So in terms of beginner or pivot friendliness, I mean, any college grad's willing to do a BSN or even accelerated BSN. You could do an accelerated BSN for 12 to 18 months. And you can also do that more accelerated as a career pivoter if you want to get into nursing from where you are now, but you still need the clinicals plus that exam. Path is pretty clear, but the education it's rigorous and it is pretty time intensive because it's clinically focused. So let's talk pros. It's meaningful, right? You're actually making an impact on people's lives. Exceptional job security. I mean, healthcare is recession proof. It can be flexible. You can again work 3-day weeks, just 12-hour shifts. You have so many different specialization paths, GI, you can work in the OR, you can work in med surg, you can work in clinics, and it's a very respected profession. But cons, the income plateaus without any advanced degrees. It's pretty physically and emotionally draining. A lot of people burn out, and because of the burnout, it puts more workload on the people that stay in the industry. You can expect to work on nights, on weekends, be on call, work on holidays, and there's very limited upward mobility without going to more school. So I'm going to put this in B tier simply because it's more accessible. The path to income's pretty quick. You have a lot of career runway opportunities. It's recession proof, and you can make a lot more money with those additional specializations, but it really just doesn't provide a really high income ceiling unless you go through more schooling. Okay, next let's talk pharmaceutical sales. Let's talk income potential. Typically you have a base around $70,000 to $90,000. Tip comp with bonuses bonuses and commissions is about 100 to 150K. Really highly specialized pharma reps will make 150 or more. But in the world of pharmaceutical sales, I've talked about this a lot on this channel. It is very rare that you'll ever break $200,000 a year. The compensation trending is pretty flat or downward for most just standard therapeutic areas. So the time that it takes to hit 100K, typically about 2 to 3 years. You'll likely start out as an associate, as a junior pharmaceutical rep, and you cross that 100K in total compensation mark pretty quickly in that the second you go from junior to senior rep. Work-life balance on paper is pretty good. You manage your own territory, you get to construct your own day-to-day, you're out and about, you're in the field, it's all face-to-face. So in modern practice, there's actually more virtual calls. You do have to deal with CRM reporting, admin work. It's a little less face-to-face than it used to be. And many companies are moving towards like hybrid/remote, so it kind of kills that whole entrepreneurial element that pharmaceutical sales used to have. Now, in terms of long-term growth, also not bad here because you can move into more specialty lines of pharmaceutical sales. You can get into the marketing departments, the training departments. You can get into sales management and leadership. But the thing is this, the pharmaceutical industry as a whole, it is consolidating. Many companies, they've just reduced their sales forces altogether. And most reps in pharmaceutical pivot to medical device sales because the compensation's higher, the day-to-day autonomy is way better. But overall, it's not a terrible place to be from a work-life balance, from an income perspective. Now, the barrier to entry is pretty low. A bachelor's degree is typically required, and the specialization usually doesn't matter, but it is preferred if you have a science background. Previous sales experience is helpful, but also not required to come in as a junior. Many pharmaceutical companies hire people out of college as associates. The barrier is pretty moderate. I mean, you don't need any advanced degrees. However, the job market's tightened and the pharmaceutical sales force has shrunken. So in terms of beginner and career pivot friendliness, it's moderately friendly. College graduates with science degrees, you have an edge here. And if you're a career pivoter from healthcare or other sales roles, you can transition, right? There's just fewer openings. It is easier to break into than medical device sales, but the reward is also lower. So the pros, solid base plus commission, company car and expenses. You have a pretty manageable balance of day to day, and it's a good entry into the life sciences industry. The cons, way lower ceiling than medical device sales. The role becomes pretty like digital and less autonomous. You're also kind of scrutinized on how many calls that you make in person. The physician access nowadays is also way harder, and there's pretty frequent restructuring and layoffs, so it's not as secure as other healthcare roles, nursing, medical device sales. So I don't hate pharmaceutical sales. I actually prefer it to a lot of things on this list. I just don't think it's nearly what it used to be. I'm going to go ahead and put it in B tier. All right, now we've got B2B, so business to business SaaS or software sales, right? So I'm going to be looking at this through the lens of coming in as a junior or an entry level rep known as a software development rep, and then getting promoted up until the account executive track, so junior to senior rep. So let's talk income potential. If you come in as a junior rep, you're making about 70 to 100K total, which honestly is not that realistic. I'm going to say you're going to be closer to the 50 to 80K range. Now, but once you pivot into an account executive, a senior sales rep, you're looking at 100 to 180K. Now, when you pivot into enterprise account executive, now we're talking 200 to 300,000 plus. One important thing to note on the income scale, there is a very wide distribution in the software world. So top performers absolutely crush it, but the average reps really don't make much. So the time that it takes to hit your first 100,000, really just 1 to 2 years. Once you come in as a software development rep, you can approach $100,000 as a software development rep, but honestly, most want to ascend into that senior rep position, which you could do in 12 to 18 months anyway, and that unlocks that $100,000 plus. In terms of work-life balance, you are working behind a desk all day, you're making cold calls, you're sending cold emails, you're doing Zoom demos, you're doing CRM logging all day. It's not that fun or glamorous. You do have daily and weekly metrics and activity metrics that you need to hit. It does create a little bit of a grind. It is a hustle culture. However, it is also remote, but it is not uncommon to blur that line between work-life balance. You tend to take your laptop home with you, and then, things kind of get integrated. But out of many other roles on this list, the work-life balance is pretty standard. In terms of long-term growth, there is a clear ascension path, which is nice. You can go from junior rep to account executive to enterprise account executive to sales director to vice president of sales. The skills are totally transferable into multiple industries or companies, but turnover is extremely high. If you find any software account executives on LinkedIn, you'll notice that their usual tenure with the company is 2 years at a time. Now, the barrier to entry is not bad. A bachelor's degree is pretty standard, not always required, and the SDR, the software development rep role, is designed as an entry role for people that are completely new to the industry, like college graduates, or even people without any sales experience. So it's one of the most accessible high-income paths available on this list. In terms of beginner and career pivot friendliness, very friendly. College grads can start as SDRs immediately. Career pivoters are also welcome. You really don't need sales experience. You get hired for hustle and coachability. And this is one of the fastest paths to a sales career from zero. The grind is real, especially at the junior level positions, but again, the barrier to entry is low. So the pros, low barrier to entry, high ceiling for top performers, remote flexibility, rapid career progression, and very transferable skills for the rest of your business career. Downside, you are starting out completely cold calling. It is soul crushing. Constant performance plans and termination threats in software sales. This is definitely more one of the scrutinized sales roles where if you don't perform, you get cut. but you are desk bound, it's very repetitive, and there's high turnover. But given the fact that I've seen sales careers completely change people's lives and open up the door to so many other aspects of their careers and income, I'm going to put it in A tier because the barrier to entry is low. The work-life balance is pretty reasonable. All right, so next let's talk software engineering. All right, let's talk income potential. Entry level at a major tech firm like a FANG company, we're talking $150,000 plus. A senior engineer at a FANG company, $300,000 plus. And if you're a staff engineer, a principal engineer, we're talking $500K to $1 million a year. Even at mid-tier companies, $150,000 to $200,000 a year is common for any experienced engineer. The time that it takes to get to your first 100,000, pretty immediate. 1 to 2 years at smaller firms, that's it. But it does require years of skill building before landing that first role. Work-life balance, completely by company. Some companies you've got strict 40-hour work weeks, and other companies you have 60 hours. On average, much better work-life balance than finance or law. Now, the always online culture can kind of blur the boundaries between work-life balance, but remote work is widely available. Now, in terms of long-term growth, it does have a clear progression path, staff software engineer up to principal, or you could do the management track where you go from EM to director to VP to CTO. You can also do freelance, you can consult, you can build your own products. So there is an element of creativity and entrepreneurship that you can spin off from learning the skills of software engineering. Now, one thing to note is the job market tightened significantly from 2023 to 2025 with mass layoffs, especially junior software engineers. Barrier to entry, a computer science degree is traditional. There are boot camps, there are CELTOF routes, but they're also increasingly competitive. You do need very strong technical skills, algorithms, data structures, system design, and the learning curve is very steep and it's ongoing. It's something that is completely changing every single day. Tech changes very fast and the AI learning curve has made this even steeper. So in terms of beginner and career pivot friendliness, it's pretty mixed, okay? Because computer science grads have the clearest path, but non-computer science grads, they face a pretty uphill battle. Now, career pivoters, they can do boot camps, right? This is like 3 to 6 months. You can, take these online. They're very inexpensive, but the junior market is very, very saturated, very difficult to break into. So it really does require genuine technical aptitude. This is not for everyone. So pros, among the highest compensation of any of the careers on this list, very strong remote options, creative problem solving, multiple career paths from having this skill set, and it's transferable into any industry. The cons are it requires real technical aptitude plus years of developing and learning the skill. The junior market is very saturated, hard to land a job, and it's very isolating. It's screen heavy. It's continuously. So I'm going to put this in B tier just because it's so saturated. Okay, so next we've got real estate agent. Let's talk income potential. The median real estate agent income is about 50 to 55K. Half of them even earn less than that. Now, top producers are the ones that you hear about, the people making 200 to 500K plus. In addition to that, elite luxury real estate agents can sometimes make $1 million or more, but these are outliers. This is not common. The income is also 100% commission, no base salary, no benefits, and most new agents earn very little in their first 1 to 2 years. So the time that it takes to hit your first 100K, typically 2 to 4 years, and that's for the agents that survive. Like most never even get there. Most new agents quit within 2 years, if not a few months. In terms of work-life balance, I mean, you set your own schedule, but clients dictate when you actually work. You're going to be working in evenings. You're going to be working on weekends. You're going to be on constantly. You're going to be that guy giving out your business card everywhere you go. And it's a feast or famine income. I will say most real estate agents are constantly stressed. Now, in terms of career growth, you can build a team. You can open a brokerage. You can move in commercial real estate or even just invest into properties. But honestly, the industry is facing a lot of disruption. We're talking new tech that'll help sell real estate on its own, the commission compression, the NAR settlement. Barrier to entry is very, very low. You don't need a college degree. You really just need hustle and the desire to want to do it. You could take a pre-licensing course. It's about 60 to 180 hours. You can do it online, take your state exam, and join a brokerage. So extremely low barrier to entry, but that also means that the competition is really, really high. There's over 3 million registered real estate agents across the country. So in terms of beginner and pivot friendliness, very accessible. Anyone can get licensed very quickly, but that means that your market's likely flooded and zero income stability safety net. Easy to start, very hard to survive. So the pros, you have unlimited ceiling, no degree is required. You could be your own boss and you could build a sellable real estate business. The cons, absolutely no safety net. Most agents fail within the first 2 years. There is a widely inconsistent income, even if you are a top performer, and it's very market dependent. Real estate agent, we're going in C tier, baby. Okay, now let's talk about management consulting, like MBB. This is a unique one. So the income potential post MBA as an associate is typically $200,000 a year or more. Now, if you're an engagement manager, which is about 3 to 5 years into your journey in management consulting, you're looking at 3 to 400K plus. If you become a partner or principal, you're looking at 500K up to $1 million. But if you're post undergrad and you don't have your MBA, it's typically about 100 to 115K to start. So the time to hit your first 100,000 is immediate. And this is for both post MBA and post undergrad tracks. But accessing either of these require elite credentials. Now, work-life balance is not bad. Monday through Thursday on client sites in different different cities is actually pretty standard. Now, there's still about a 60 to 80 hour work week if you include the travel. Long-term growth is excellent. Best exit opportunities out of any career, right? By having this experience, you can get hired as a CEO, you can be a startup founder, you can go into private equity, you can be a corporate executive. Now, there is a up or out culture, which is you advance or you leave, but the exits are pretty golden. Barrier to entry is high. If you're looking to be an associate, you essentially need a top 10 MBA. It's required. Now, if you just want to get into the analyst track, top university, good GPA, good case interviews. But this is one of the most exclusive career paths to access, not the easiest to break into at all. So in terms of beginner and career pivot friendliness, very unfriendly unless you have elite credentials. Career pivoters typically need a top 10 MBA, which by the way, that's like $200,000 in schooling and at least 2 years. And there's no side door. The pedigree is the price of admission. So the pros: elite compensation, unmatched exit opportunities, rapid career development, C-suite exposure, and very powerful alumni network. The cons: the traveling associated with it destroys your personal life. 60 to 80 hour work weeks. It requires an elite pedigree. It's the up or out pressure, and the MBA costs to get into this field are over 200 grand. Going to put this in C tier, again, just with respect to beginners and career pivoters. All right, so next let's talk enterprise tech sales. So these are closer positions. So this is not the junior level role. This is more of the account executive type position. So if you're an enterprise account exec, you're making $150,000 to $200,000. Top performers make over $300K. If you're a strategic account executive for like Salesforce or Amazon Web Services, you can make $400K to $700K. This is one of the highest paying career paths without an advanced degree. So the time that it takes to make your first 100K is typically about 1 to 3 years, because you are going to likely have to start out as a software development rep, as a business development rep, a junior sales rep. Work-life balance, this is better than a SaaS SDR, more strategic, there's less daily grind. The downside is the sales cycles are very long, right? 6 to 18 months just to close a deal, which means the relationship building is really over cold calling and just kind of long, strenuous relationships. But remote work is very common. The quota pressure is still real. In terms of long-term growth, this is pretty good. You can go from an enterprise account exec into director, into VP, into CRO, and even CEO. Many tech CEOs came up through sales, and the skills are extremely transferable. You can make a lateral move and your pay bumps. Now, the barrier to entry, not too bad. Bachelor's degree is standard, but no advanced degrees are required. Most enterprise account executives worked up just from a SDR, like a software development rep role, and even just mid-market over like 3 to 5 years. It's really not too crazy. And sometimes people break in laterally from other industries, as long as they still have like a relationship-based selling background. So in terms of beginner and career pivoting friendliness, it's pretty friendly. College graduates can start out as an SDR and then just work up from there. There's a pretty clear promotional path. Anyone in a career with a sales background could break in, but it just takes 3 to 5 years of grinding at the lower level to reach that enterprise level. So in terms of pros, among the highest comp without an advanced degree on this list, you do have a little bit of autonomy with running your own territory. It's very strategic work. There's a good advancement path, and there's that remote working flexibility. Cons: income is heavily variable based on the company, the product, the sales cycle, and the economy. There is constant quota pressure in this world. It takes years of grinding to reach that enterprise level, and tech layoffs create a lot of severe instability. And also, you're working behind a desk. So I'm going to go ahead and put this in B tier. So this is a controversial one. The next one is dentistry. Let's talk income potential. Usually about 170 to 200K average. Now, if you're a specialist, like in ortho or oral surgery, you're talking 300 to 500K plus, and practice owners can earn significantly more, but you're running a business with lots of overhead. Now, time to hit your first 100K is immediate upon starting out, but you will not start earning a dollar until about 8+ years of schooling are complete, with about $200,000 to $300,000 in debt. Work-life balance is legitimately excellent once you are an established dentist. 4 to 5 days a week, you have set hours, you don't work nights, you don't work weekends, you're not on call. Significantly better lifestyle than most physician paths. Now, long-term growth, also great. You can grow a practice, you can open multiple locations if you have that entrepreneurial side. You can specialize, you could even sell your practice one day for a huge payday. The demand is steady, it's very recession resistant. I guess the only downside of this is the work itself just doesn't change dramatically. It gets pretty monotonous. Barrier to entry: 4-year undergrad, 4-year dental school, and if you want to become a specialist, you're talking another 2 to 4 years. The average dental school debt is about $200,000 to $300,000 or more, and you need very strong DAT scores and competitive applications. So in terms of beginner or career pivot friendliness, not friendly for anybody looking for speed, because even if you graduated college, you need another 4 years, and then if you're a career pivoter, you need the same thing. Massive financial commitment before seeing any return on this. So here are the pros: extremely high income, excellent work-life balance, tons of autonomy once you become a practice owner, recession-proof, no nights, no on-call, and you build sellable equity, which is very rare in so many of these career paths. The cons: $200,000 to $300,000 in debt, 8 years minimum in education. There's a physical toll of your back and your neck and your hands of constantly doing this work, and the work becomes very redundant and repetitive. Plus, we're not even talking about the insurance battles and all the overhead ahead with dentistry. So if it wasn't for that $200,000 to $300,000 in schooling and debt, I would put this in S tier. But because of that and the accessibility, I'm putting this in A tier. Tremendous place to be regardless. Okay, so now we've got financial planning and wealth management. Income potential, entry level, you're at about 40 to 60K. And once you become an established advisor, we're talking like a 50 to 100 million portfolio, we're looking at about $200,000 a year or more. So if you're a top wirehouse or independent advisor, you could be looking at $500,000 a year or more. But the first 3 to 5 years are a total grind. Many people wash out. So the time that it takes to hit your first 100K is about 3 to 5 years for most people. You need to build a book from scratch, and the career rewards patience and compounding. Work-life balance, excellent once the book is built. You have meetings on your own terms, you have no nights, you have no travel, but the early career is a hustle. You're networking at events, you're doing cold calls, you're doing seminars. In terms of long-term career growth, the income compounds dramatically. Your book grows, your revenue grows, assuming all of your markets cooperate. You can build a team, you could start your own RIA, you could specialize in certain niches, and no elite school is required, but credentials do take time. In terms of beginner or career pivoting friendliness, very accessible to start. Firms will hire and train college graduates. Career pivoters can transition, but they still face that same 3 to 5 year book building grind. The barrier is not education, it's really just surviving long enough to kind of build that client base. So the pros are the income compounds over time, excellent balance once you are established in the industry, very meaningful work, and you do have a sellable asset, which is a plus. The cons, first 3 to 5 years are totally brutal and most people wash out. Unstable income until that book reaches its mass. Market downturns affect revenue completely, and there is a lot of fee compression from robo advisors, so AI may change this industry quite a bit in terms of income potential. So because of that, I am putting it in B tier. Good lower, so lower barrier to entry, but it's just not super likely that people make it that far. All right, so we're down to the last two on this list. We're talking physical therapy, so DPT. Income potential, average physical therapist, about $90,000 to $100,000. Now, if you're specialized and you're in high demand, we're talking 100K plus, or if you're a travel PT, we're talking about 120 to 150K. So due to the declining reimbursement in the physical therapy world, practice ownership has really slim margins. It also has one of the weakest ROIs on this list relative to the education costs. So the time that it takes to hit your first 100K, it's typically about 5 to 10 years. Many PTs never consistently cross $100,000, and that's after 7 years of school and about 150,000 in debt. Work-life balance is generally pretty good. Standard business hours and outpatient settings, that's it. You are physically active, but you're also not desk-bound, so some people prefer that. But very high patient volumes and productivity quotas, it does usually create burnout. In terms of long-term career growth, you can specialize in sports, ortho, neuro, you can open your own practice, you can get into academia, but the income ceiling is pretty low. And the declining reimbursement around physical therapy, it really does squeeze the profession. Some PTs pivot into medical device sales or just health tech overall to unlock higher earning potential. Barrier to entry, also not the easiest. 4-year undergrad plus 3-year DPT. That's 7 years minimum. Average DPT debt, 100 to 150,000, and you must pass the NPTE, the exam. So there is a pretty high barrier to entry to income ceiling, and that's the core problem here. You're going through so much schooling and so much debt to not even make a significant amount of money. So in terms of beginner and career pivot friendliness, pretty unfriendly for anybody looking for fast income growth. College grads face 3 more years of DPT. Career pivoters face that same commitment. And after 7 years of education, you're making about 95K a year. It's kind of a tough sell. So in terms of pros, it's meaningful, hands-on work, good work-life balance. You're not physically active. You're not stuck behind a desk, and there is growing demand. But the downside, 7 years of school, lots of debt, not good ROI on your income. I'm going to go ahead and put this in D tier. So finally on this list, we have medical device sale. Income potential, associate reps make 80 to 120K year one. And then once you get promoted into a senior sales rep position about 1 to 3 years in, you're looking at $150 to $250,000 plus. Senior reps or top performers make anywhere from $200,000 to $300,000 plus, with really high value specialties like spine, robotics, cardio, make anywhere from $350,000 to $500K plus. Now the income trajectory is steep, and it also is achievable within a very realistic time frame. I actually broke in out of college, and as an associate year one at age 23, I made about 75K. In 10 months, promoted to a senior rep, making 180K plus at age 24. It changed my life. So the time that it takes to hit your first 100K, I mean, we're literally talking 1 to 2 years, and sometimes literally day one. Most associate reps cross 100K in their first or second years. Within 2 to 3 years, you go into a senior rep position, making 150 to 250,000. Very realistic, fastest path to multiple 6 figures on this list without any sort of advanced education. Work-life balance is pretty good. It's field-based, it's autonomous. You pop into hospitals, surgery centers, and clinics. You are not behind a desk literally at all. You manage your own territory and your own schedule when you're a senior rep. You have no micromanager. No one's watching your screen all day. Now, you do have some early mornings if you're going to the OR at 7 in the morning. And yes, you will have occasional late procedures. You're there later in the day, but you genuinely do have day-to-day freedom and autonomy autonomy, which is amazing. Medical device sales is the closest thing to running your own business, but with the stability of a W-2. So in terms of long-term career growth, it's incredible. You could go from an associate to a full-line sales rep to a senior sales rep to leadership, regional vice president. You can get an area vice president. You can then move into marketing, training, all still pay six figures. If you go into that senior level leadership, you can make 250 to 500K plus, or you could pivot into a disruptive technology company and make over 500 grand a year just by being a performing sales rep. You're never stuck. The skills are very highly valued and portable into any medical device sales company or even other industries. The barrier to entry is low. Bachelor's degree. You typically just need a bachelor's degree, and in some instances, you don't need a degree at all. So you don't need a medical degree. You don't need an MBA. You don't need any sort of specialized certifications. You could break in from college. You could break in without a college degree. You could break in if you're coming from healthcare or if you're coming from sales. Honestly, people break in from completely unrelated fields. I've talked about on this channel and given examples of people that have broken in from being a mascot in Disneyland, have archaeology bachelor's degrees. It's really just about positioning, networking, and demonstrating the right personality traits. In terms of beginner or career pivot friendliness, probably the most career friendly on this list for beginners, grads, or career pivoters. College graduates can break in as an associate with the right approach and positioning, or if you're a healthcare worker looking to make a pivot like a nurse, a PT, surgical tech, you actually have an advantage when trying to break in the industry. Now, any career pivoter from sales, finance, you could break in without going back to school at all. You don't need 3 to 7 years in education. You don't need 200 grand in debt. You can literally start earning immediately. So the pros: fastest path to $150,000 to $250,000 plus without any sort of advanced education. No specialized degree, no advanced certifications. It's field-based autonomy. It's truly the freedom and liberation of running your own business and being an entrepreneur, but without the risk of starting one. You often get paid for cars, really great company benefits, and you're doing meaningful work. Like, all of your devices are used in patient care and surgery, and you get to witness the direct impact of them being used on people. Very clear upward mobility with multiple career paths as well. Now, the cons are breaking in can be very competitive because everybody knows what I just mentioned. So without the right guidance or network, it is very, very challenging. And the early entry-level roles might require relocation or just less desirable territories or work-life balance. You kind of have to grind it out in that first year. But I hate to admit it, after that first year, it gets exponentially easier. So sorry guys, I'm biased. It's going in S tier. All right, so if you can't tell just by the lighting in the room, this has gone on a lot longer than I anticipated. But overall, guys, I hope you found this valuable in terms of deciding what career path makes the most sense for you if you're looking to get into your first career or pivot into a new one. If medical device sales particularly catches your attention, that's exactly what this YouTube channel and podcast are completely dedicated to. It's an industry that opened up so many doors for me in life, both financially and from a career perspective. So go ahead and just follow us here if you want more free content on how to break into medical device sales, as well as what the career is all about. Otherwise, guys, I will see you next time. Peace.